Good morning and welcome. It's Corporate Governance Platform brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. I am Funmi Omoburiwo. ICSAN is dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and administration. On the program this morning, we are looking at monitoring of compliance with the code, the roles of FRC, SEC, sectoral regulators, and stakeholders. All right, our guest on the program this morning is Mrs. Nkechi Anyima, FCIS, Chairman, Lagos State Chapter of ICSAN. She's also Principal Partner in Anyima and Associates, a firm of legal practitioners and governance professionals. Good morning, Mrs. Anyima.
Good morning, Fumi. Good morning, our listeners.
All right, thank you. It's good to have you back on the program.
Good to be here.
All right, also here is Mr. Kayode Ketefe, Head of Research, ICSAN. Good morning, Mr. Ketefe.
Good morning, Fumi. Good morning to you, all our listeners.
All right, before we go into the main discourse for the day, let's take this message.
Hey, Obinna, good to see you. You look so worried. Is everything all right? I'm having serious issues in my company, balancing the interests of my company's many stakeholders like shareholders, management, customers, financiers, government, and communities giving us a problem. That has to do with corporate governance. Exactly. Then you need to get in touch with ICSAN. ICSAN? Yeah. Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. They provide you with seasoned and top-ranking professionals trained to uphold the standards of corporate governance and efficient operations. You can also get in touch with ICSAN if you want to become a Chartered Secretary and Administrator. Contact ICSAN by visiting the website www.icsan.org or call 009 06 601 69. ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
All right, ICSAN, definitely the hub of governance professionals. Like I said earlier, that we're looking at monitoring of compliance with the code, the roles of FRC, SEC, sectoral regulators, and stakeholders. All right, Ms. Anyima, let's look at the issue of monitoring of compliance. Why is this relevant in the context of corporate governance?
Thank you for that question. Of what use is the law if it cannot ensure adherence and implementation to the benefits of society and even the operating environment? And you know that through this radio medium, ICSAN has consistently and on a weekly basis reiterated the importance of adherence to good corporate governance practice as a key success, business growth, and sustainability. No one starts a business with intent to fail. So the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018 has now set the standard for all companies, whether small or big, irrespective of the sector or industry of business, even whether private or public, to apply a minimum standard of corporate governance in its business. The responsibility to monitor compliance of the principles in the code has been vested in the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. Monitoring will help in promoting public awareness of essential corporate values and ethical practices that will enhance the integrity of the business environment. Businesses grow when they are built on trust. We all know that. And we can see this even globally when that countries today are battling with a lot of internal conflict because of a lack of trust. So when there is adherence to the principles of corporate governance as stated in the code, it will build public trust and confidence even in the Nigerian economy and facilitate increased trade, also of foreign investments.
All right. Now, since the code is voluntary and mandatory, what purpose do you think monitoring of compliance will serve?
Without effective monitoring of compliance, companies can easily resort to what we usually call the box-ticking approach, which is more or less paying lip service without applying the actual principles in the business of the company. So to avoid this, the code is based on the apply and explain principle. So rather than just thinking that you have applied a particular principle. Companies are further required to explain in detail how the principles have been applied to suit their unique organizational context and whether or not it is achieving the intended outcome. So it helps to match and suit and even adjust the growth phase of each company that is tailored to its own unique nature.
All right, let's look at, the role of some of these regulators. Let's look at these regulators one after the other, like the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, the FRC. Let's look at their role. You can also take on the role of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and that of the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC. Let's look at the role they have to play in ensuring compliance with the code.
Okay, as I said earlier, the FRC is tasked with the responsibility to enforce the code. Since other sectoral regulators, by their laws, have the power to impose sanctions on defaulting companies operating within their sector. For example, the SEC, as you mentioned, can impose fines. Even the NSE, that's the Nigerian Stock Exchange, can delist. The CAC can list a company as inactive. All these are just examples of parts of penal measures that they give to a company because of infractions. The FRC now will monitor the code through these sectoral regulators and registered exchanges who are empowered to impose sanctions on the specific deviation as noted in the company in question. So that is how the FRC plays a role side by side with all these regulators. Additionally, the FRC may conduct reviews of the implementation of the code where deviations from the code reoccur.
Okay. What about NICOM and PENCOM?
These are also regulators playing in different sectors. The NICOM, we see them in the insurance sector. The PENCOM, we see them in the pension sector. The beautiful thing is that the code has institutionalized corporate governance practices in all, emphasis on all Nigerian companies, irrespective of the sector or industry. So these sectoral regulators, as you mentioned, play the same role, like we mentioned about SEC and NSE, of imposing sanctions on defaulting companies through the monitoring exercise of the FRC. Of course, this can be more effective where guidelines are published, as guidelines help to assist implementation and monitoring so as to adequately address issues as relevant and appropriate to the different sectors and industry of the economy.
All right. In the context of corporate governance, who are those we may refer to as stakeholders?
Okay, we can look at stakeholders in two groups, and all groups are recognized by the code.
Okay.
We have the internal stakeholders, such as the shareholders, which are the investors, the directors, managers, employees. We also have the external stakeholders, which are people such as the creditors. We have the vendors, the auditors. We also have the customers. We have financial analysts who come to analyze the finances of companies. We have the regulators, as we've mentioned. We have even the community, the host community. We have non-governmental organizations, and we even have government agencies. All these stakeholders come together to ensure that the company is run the right way. When a well-managed company has effectively aligned the interests of all these stakeholders, this will put the company in a better place to achieve its business objective and goals.
What roles do institutional investors have to play in ensuring compliance with the code?
Okay, first of all, let me identify or define what institutional investors are. These organizations that pull together funds on behalf of others and invest those funds in a variety of different financial instruments and assets. An example we can have are the mutual funds that we buy. We have the insurance funds, we have pension plans, we also have hedge funds, we have investment banks. One of the main powers of institutional investors is that they promote management accountability. Their contribution and interference always ensures that management is accountable to all the stakeholders. So they monitor the decisions of the board, which helps in building effective corporate governance practices in the company. When companies are monitored to adhere strictly to the principles in the code, they demonstrate a commitment to good governance practices. which in turn increases the level of transparency, trust, and integrity in the company. And then it creates an environment for sustainable business operations that the company can even thrive into the future.
All right. Let's also look at what advice you would have for both operators, that's talking about companies and regulators, regarding their roles on governance matters.
The code advocates for stronger governance practices within companies and accountability to shareholders. The practices recommended in the code will require companies, particularly those who have not previously been regulated by any governance code, to conduct a preliminary assessment of their existing governance practices in line with the principles articulated in the code. And what will this result? They will now have to put in place appropriate measures, processes, and practices to address any observed gaps. This is what is helpful to companies as operators. Likewise, for regulators, they will need to issue guidelines and appropriate directives to deal with issues concerning, for example, the treatment of current sectoral codes in existence that may have more stringent rules than what the code itself stipulates, and the frameworks to be utilized in developing and reporting on internal control and sustainability frameworks. These are just an example of governance matters that even the regulators can look into.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Nkechi Ayima, FCIS Chairman, Lagos State Chapter Ixan, and also Principal Partner and Ayima Associate, a firm of legal practitioners and governance professionals. Thank you for joining us on Corporate Governance Platform this morning. All right, Mr. Ketefe, let's quickly take some announcements.
Thank you very much for me. The announcement we have for you today is on the forthcoming 2021 Roundtable on Corporate Governance, which is holding tomorrow, Thursday, May 23rd, 2021. Dear listeners, the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, is pleased to invite you to our 2021 Roundtable on Corporate Governance, holding tomorrow, Thursday, 28th May 2021. That is to say, the event is holding just about 24 hours' time. This event, which will be held virtually, is slated for 10 a.m. prompt. The theme of the roundtable is Ethical Governance in the Boardroom, Implication for Stakeholders. The theme, once again, is Ethical Governance in the Boardroom, Implication for Stakeholders. The ICSAN Roundtable on Corporate Governance is a major annual event in the Institute's calendar, and it focuses on promoting ideals, principles, and best practices of corporate governance in both the private and public sectors. The chairman of the occasion is His Royal Majesty Igwe Alfred Nnameka Ashibe, FCIS. The keynote speaker is a managing partner in Olanihu Ajayi LP. He is Professor Kanyisola Ajayi, SAN. There are also two distinguished discussants. The first one is a former ICSAN Council member and the Vice Chairman of the Audit and Risk Management Committee of the Institute, Dr. Nichi Esiako, FCIS. The second discussant is the Executive Vice Chairman, Post Nigeria, Mrs. Toyin Mafi Isibo. These seasoned speakers and discussants will definitely bring their wealth of experience to bear at the program, which promises to be exciting and enlightening. The schedule of participation fee is as follows. Members, 20,000 naira. Students, 15,000 naira. Non-members, 25,000 naira. The link for participation will be sent to the participant upon confirmation of payment. Hurry up to pay now and register, as the event is only 24 hours away. Avail yourself of this opportunity for capacity building. For further details on this, please call OGG on 080-237-83043. OGG on 080-237-83043. Thank you very much and have a pleasant day.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kadi Ketefe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSAN. And that's a bit this morning on Corporate Governance Platform. Join us same time, same station next week, 10:15 a.m. right here on Equator 9.7 FM. I am Funmi Omoburiwu. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.